There is no wrong time to make a swimsuit. Hello there, welcome back to the JoonMade channel. My name is Paula Jean, and August has been kind of a busy month. I had a birthday, big 55. I made a shirt for my dad that was a special request, and it turned out great, and he loves it, and it fits him, and he looks great in it. I'm very proud of it. And I also decided it was time to add to my swimwear collection. And I use air quotes because my collection is made up of 2 bathing suits, a 1-piece and a 2-piece that I made 2 years ago. And I love them, I still wear them, but I really wanted to kind of add to my options in that arena. Now, before we dive in, I want to kind of make up for some mistakes I have made in the past, because I've had several people comment on a couple of different videos asking me what I am wearing. So I want to start incorporating telling you about what I'm wearing into my intros. And today I am wearing the Deer and Doe Scirocco jumpsuit. I actually made this a couple of summers ago, and I have a blog post all about it on my poor neglected little blog that has fallen by the wayside because I've been trying to get this channel going. But I do have a post all about what I like about this pattern and my experience with working with this particular fabric. This incarnation of it is actually new because originally I had done a little sleeve hack on it to make a little bit of a puff sleeve, which with a little cuff on it. I recently took those off. I loved the sleeves while they were on, and I had a great time wearing them, and it was time for, I won't even call it an upgrade, just a little bit of a change. And since I've taken the sleeves off, I've worn it actually a whole lot more. So there we are with that. That's what I'm wearing, and I will leave that blog post down below. On to the swimsuits. When I ordered some athletic fabric from Fabric Fairy several months ago now, I checked out their remnants section, and I highly recommend doing this because I ended up scoring for about $8 this beautiful plum plaid printed swimwear fabric that I thought would be perfect for the 1-piece view of the closet core Faye. This pattern came out last summer, and I wasn't a tester for it, but I was gifted an advanced copy of the pattern. And when I got it, I made myself kind of a quick, fairly wearable muslin, actually. This swimsuit comes in 3 views. View A is a high-waisted bottom with a kind of sports bra style top that has a very thin underbust band. The view B is more of a low or mid-rise bikini bottom, and it has a wider band option under the bust. And then view C is a very simple 1-piece that has kind of a deeper cut in the back, and then the straps crisscross through some loops that are kind of at the mid-back range, so makes for a really nice kind of back line as well. When the fabric arrived, it was even prettier than it was online, and I was getting a very strong urge to cut this on the bias. It's such a large scale, as you can see, and so I didn't want to cut it up, which is why I wanted to do a very simple cut 1-piece, and I thought it would be even more dynamic looking if it was on the bias. I was a little hesitant at first because I had always learned that you're not supposed to cut knit fabrics on the bias, and that's because the stretch percentage is different on the lengthwise grain and the crosswise grain usually. And what that does if you cut it on the bias is it kind of warps your garment, or it can. But because this is swimwear fabric, the stretch percentages are fairly equal on the cross and lengthwise grains. So I just decided to go for it. I'm like, this is a remnant. This is what these things are for, is for experimentation. So I very, very carefully laid out the pattern and made sure I had enough for the front and the back to cut them both on the bias. And I figured if it went too off the rails, I probably could squeeze like a 2-piece swimsuit out of this. But I'm very happy to show you and to report that that did not happen. I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. The Faye has such nice, clean finishes along the neckline and the arms. And that is due to how you apply the swimwear elastic to the seams. They actually have a sew along for this pattern on their YouTube channel that I will link below, and the instructions that you get with the pattern are also very, very good, so they kind of explain that. Let me just turn it inside out so you can kind of see. So because of how you apply the elastic, it's very, very nice and neat. It doesn't peek over the top. I also did the extra step, which they do recommend, of understitching as far as I could along the neck and armholes. And so it works really well to help keep that lining from peeking out, which is a common problem with bathing suits. You might be noticing here an extra layer of this really soft stretch mesh and some foam cups. This was a layer that I added because I wanted to be able to take the cups in and out. It is a fairly supportive top. I was actually surprised when I made the muslin of the two-piece how supportive it was, even without bra cups in. But just in case I'm hanging out with, you know, a lot of people that I don't know or a lot of kids or whatever, that just gives a little extra support and coverage in that arena. So I made this extra piece myself. I also made my foam cup inserts. I'm going to show you how I did both of those things a little bit later in the video. The other thing that that I did was I added these bands along the leg line. Now this was to cover up for a mistake that I made when I was adjusting the pattern. When I had done the muslin of the two-piece, I wanted the leg line to be a little bit higher and not kind of sit in my hip crease so much. So when I made those adjustments on the bottoms, I just transferred them straight over to the one-piece version. The issue with that is that the side seams of the bottoms, of the separate bottoms, actually sit a little bit forward, and it's really nice. It gives a nice leg line. But the side seams of the one piece are kind of truer. It's a true side seam. So when I transferred those changes over to the one piece, it ended up giving me a little bit cheekier of a leg line than I was comfortable with. So to remedy that, I cut some bands. I think I made them 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches wide, folded them in half, and then I made them the same length as the leg elastic, basted it on right sides together, and then when I applied the swimwear elastic, and I used cotton swimwear elastic, put that on the wrong side of the leg and then serged all those layers together. So I was dealing with the elastic, the lining, the folded leg band, and the bodice, serged those all together, flipped it over, and then top stitched it with a zigzag stitch. So that just gives me a little, like 3/4 of an inch extra coverage, which ended up being great. The only thing that happens is that you also end up with that extra coverage, the extra width at the crotch, but it doesn't bother me at all because where the elastic sits is still exactly where it's supposed to be, because the elastic isn't sitting at this edge, it's sitting at the original seam line where it's supposed to. So I am really thrilled with the way that this turned out, and I have already tested this in a swimming pool and it works great. I used the front lining piece to create a separate piece to use for the stretch mesh. I cut out a scoop so that I would have a little pocket opening. To reinforce that opening, I added some clear elastic, which I serged on very, very carefully with my serger. I also added some picot elastic to the bottom edge just to finish it off. I then sewed it to the lining at the armholes, neckline, and at the bottom. Then I inserted a 2-inch piece of elastic, which I secured at the top edge with a 3-step zigzag. After marking the center front, I stitched 2 lines so that I could create 2 separate pockets to keep the bra cups from migrating too far. After sewing the front and back lining pieces together, I have a nice little pocket. For the bra cups, I used a small pair that I had on hand and measured the space that I had surrounding it so that I wouldn't make them too large. I then drew a control line on a piece of paper, folded the cup in half, and then roughly drew in the curves of the bottom and what would be the center of the cup. I then used a curve to smooth out those lines and to add a little bit extra. I then traced the pieces onto the foam, making sure I marked the notch where they were going to be sewn together, and then I sewed them by butting the two pieces up against one another and sewing with a zigzag stitch. To flatten out the edges, I applied some clear elastic to the edge and used a zigzag stitch just to tamp it down, and you can see how much that makes a difference. I also used my hair dryer to get rid of any marks and to work out any of the wrinkles. And voila! I'm letting Betty model the top half of my two-piece because while it looks fantastic on a 3D form, it doesn't present so well as a flat lay, and you'll find out in a second why I'm not modeling this on myself. So this is the Surfside Wrap Swim Top by Green Style Patterns, and this was such a fun and easy sew. It is a wrap style swim top, as the name indicates. So it wraps in the front, comes around, ties in the back like this. This is actually one of 3 back versions that you get with this pattern. This is the narrowest back band here. It also comes with a thicker one that comes up a little bit higher, and then it also comes with a racer back option, so that will give you a little bit more support, or if you don't like halter styles, that's also an option with this. And this is, if I didn't mention it already, this is a reversible swim top if you want it to be. You don't have to make it that way, but I was very intrigued by that and I made mine reversible. The fabric that I used is actually some leftovers of the first swimsuit that I ever made, and I also have a blog post all about that, and I will leave that link down below. But this also gives me the option of another top to wear with those bottoms that I made for that, and then I have the black side, and I also made some black bottoms that I'm going to show you in a second as well. So like I said, really, really easy sew. There is a sew along on the Green Style YouTube channel that I will link down below. All of the neckline, the armhole here, the bottom and the back, both at the top and the bottom, all of these edges are elasticized. So you sew elastic into the seams the way you do on any swimsuit. So that would be the only thing about it. It's not difficult. You just have these kind of long runs of elastic. And then the larger cup sizes also have a bust dart to help with shaping. Also, what helps with shaping is that when you're putting the elastic on that underbust line there, you just pull the elastic in the cup area so that it gives you a little bit more shape. I did not change anything about this pattern except for the halter neckline in the back. So the halter version actually has 2 straps that come down and you tie it at the back. And while I love a halter neckline, I don't love having a knot at the back. So I just made a strip that was the same width as the strap and put elastic in it. And I attached it using the same method as they describe in the sew along as you do the racer back. So that's how I get a clean finish on both sides of the fabric. So, so you can go check that out on that video. But yeah, this came together so well. It is actually very, very comfortable. And I'll just show you here. This is why I'm not modeling it on myself. So you can actually tie this the regular wrap way, but you could also twist it. And so you have a nice little twist in the front. You could even just tie it in a big bow in the front. Yeah, lots of options. And like I said, quite comfortable. So that is the Surfside Wrap Swim Top. I had to practice saying that so much. You have no idea. It's such a tongue twister. Try it. Yeah, that's that top. And we'll move on to the bottoms. I actually used a brand new pattern for which I was a tester. It is from Primrose Dawn and it's called the Reina High Cut. It is so comfortable, and I actually, when I was testing, made both versions of the underwear. It has a thong back option and a regular kind of mid-coverage back option, and I had done both of them, and I love the fit so much that I decided to turn it into a bikini bottom. So these are black, which means they are very hard to see on camera. I'm hoping some of the light reflection will pick up on the details, but in case it doesn't, I also pulled out the underwear version that I made for my testing because it's color blocked, you can kind of see the design lines a little bit better. So this is a pattern that for the waist, it has these really great fold over pieces. So there's no elastic per se in the waist. You use stretchy fabric, or you can use a stretch lace also. For the front and the back waistline, there's a lovely little V detail here, and there's a seam in the center back. And then in the front, these are two separate pieces that make a little kind of a top of the diamond shape. So those are my underwear. So the only thing I had to do for making it into a bathing suit bottom is to use swimwear fabric, and I also lined the front and the back. The other thing I did was that on the original pattern there is a separate gusset, so there is usually a seam at the front and the back of the gusset. I eliminated that front one and just made the whole thing smooth, and I just did that by laying the two pattern pieces on top of one another as I was cutting it, and that's as simple as that. I also, because on the underwear it's meant to be finished with fold over elastic, so there is no extra seam allowance to allow for underturned elastic. And I could have easily added the extra 3/8 of an inch, that was the width of elastic I was using. I could have added that, but I kind of wanted to try another leg finish option. So I basically made a binding for it, and how I did this was, hold on a second. This woman on your screen is about to give you a not great explanation of this technique because she is sweaty and hot and tired. So let's give her a break, and voiceover Paula Jean here will walk you through it on my Faye high waist bottoms muslin. I basted together the lining and outer fabric of the leg openings and cut 2 bands 1.5 inches wide and the same length as my elastic. After sewing the bands into loops, I sewed them to the leg openings right sides together on my serger. Next, I applied the elastic so the edge met up exactly with the inside edge of the serger stitching. This was attached with a zigzag stitch right along that inside edge of the elastic. I then wrapped the binding around the elastic, making sure it covered the underside. Note that I didn't turn under the elastic, I just wrapped it. From here, I did a zigzag top stitch from the right side, catching the underside of the binding. I was left with some extra fabric, which I trimmed away to about 1/8 of an inch from the zigzag stitches. These are now much more comfortable around my legs and have gone from muslin to full-on swim wardrobe item. Now back to our irregularly scheduled video. So I'm, again, really happy with these. They are super comfortable. I love especially the comfort on the waist. I hate things that really dig in hard on the waist. So this was really nice. Obviously they're super comfortable as an underwear pattern as well. So those are my new swimsuits, and I am really happy that I have more than doubled my swimsuit collection, and because I live in a climate where you can go in the water pretty much all year round, I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of them. I think the next thing I'm going to do is going to be an easy win project. Been working with some fiddly fabrics, so I could use a little bit of a break. And there is a challenge going on the Sew Over 50 Instagram page that is Sew a Hat 23. So I think I'm going to make myself a new hat. Yeah. In the meantime, I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Maybe hit the little notification bell so you can be notified when I upload a new video. And I hope you're having a beautiful week, that you've had a wonderful summer, that you've had fun and time with loved ones, and I will see you next time.